NASCAR lost a two-time champion, a team lost its heartbeat, and one of the most storied organizations in motorsport history is now asking the same question they were forced to ask over 2 decades ago. How do you keep racing when the person you're racing for is gone? Richard Childress Racing has been here before, and what they do next will define this organization for years to come. Here's where things stand. Kyle Busch passed away on May 21st after battling pneumonia. He was the face of Richard Childress Racing, a 2-time Cup Series champion, a generational talent, and by every account, someone who made everyone around him better just by showing up. RCR has since retired his number 8, reserving it specifically for his son Brexton should he one day reach the Cup Series. Austin Hill has stepped into the car temporarily, running the numberia 33 Chevrolet at Charlotte and now Nashville, while the organization figures out the long-term picture. No permanent replacement has been named, and right now, nobody inside that shop is focused on that conversation anyway. To understand what this moment truly means, you have to understand what Kyle Busch was to this team. He wasn't just a hired driver, he was the standard. The benchmark every other employee, every crew member, every engineer inside RCR measured themselves against week in and week out. When you have a 2-time champion in your building, it raises the ceiling for the entire operation. Austin Dillon has been open about how devastating the past several weeks have been, but what struck him most isn't the grief he feels personally. It's watching it ripple through every single person at the shop: mechanics, engineers, administrative staff, people who gave years of their careers to the same organization Kyle Busch gave his talent to. Dillon stayed back at the RCR facility while team owner Richard Childress and his father Mike Dillon went to the hospital. He was communicating updates to staff, keeping people informed, holding things together behind the scenes while one of the worst scenarios in the team's recent history was unfolding in real time. That context matters. Because what RCR is dealing with right now isn't a roster move or a sponsorship problem. It's grief. Deep organizational grief. And how a team navigates that determines who they are on the other side of it. The phrase Austin Dillon has repeated throughout this period is "ride for the brand." And on the surface, it sounds like a motivational slogan, but dig a little deeper and it's actually a profound statement about identity. Richard Childress Racing has survived catastrophic loss before. When Dale Earnhardt died at Daytona in 2001, this organization nearly ceased to exist at the highest level. Childress himself, by multiple accounts, was so broken that he considered walking away from the sport entirely. The only thing that kept him in NASCAR was a promise he had made to Earnhardt that he would not quit. Kevin Harvick, who knows Childress better than almost anyone, described walking into Childress's office after Earnhardt's death and finding a man who hadn't slept in days, sitting in silence. That image tells you everything about how deeply Childress carries the people who wear his colors. Now, at 80 years old, he is navigating a nearly identical situation. Since Busch's passing, Childress has stayed almost entirely silent publicly. He stood beside Samantha and Brexton Busch at the memorial ceremony at Charlotte Motor Speedway and said nothing to the media. For those who know him, that silence isn't absence. It's the weight of someone who puts everyone else first, even when he's the one who needs support most. That quality is both his greatest strength and, as Harvick pointed out, sometimes the thing that works against him. The strategic challenge for RCR right now is enormous. They need to make a permanent decision about the number 8. 33 car without it looking rushed or disrespectful. They need to keep Austin Hill motivated and performing in an incredibly difficult spotlight. They need to manage morale across an entire organization that is still raw. And they need to do all of that while somehow still competing at the front of the field. Racing is the distraction and the obligation at the same time. It's both the thing that hurts and the thing that heals. That's a near impossible balance. But if any organization in NASCAR history has proven it can survive something like this, it's the one that wears the RCR logo. The tributes from around the garage have been extraordinary in their sincerity. Daniel Suarez dedicated his Coca-Cola 600 victory directly to Kyle Busch, Samantha, and the family. And given what Busch meant to Suarez, personally helping him find his footing when he first arrived in the United States, those words hit differently than a standard victory lane dedication. Chase Elliott openly admitted he considered removing himself from the most popular driver ballot entirely, following the example his father set after losing Dale Earnhardt in 2001. The The fact that he even thought about it speaks to how much Busch meant across the entire competitive landscape. And Denny Hamlin's tribute might have been the most revealing. A man who spent years racing against Busch as a teammate at Joe Gibbs Racing, pushing each other to the absolute limit every single week, said plainly, without Kyle Busch making him better, his career looks completely different. That's not generic praise. That's one of the best drivers of his generation telling the world that his peer elevated the sport around him just by competing in it. Two paths forward for RCR from here. The ride for the brand mentality becomes a genuine source of fuel for the entire operation. Austin Hill performs well, earns the permanent seat, and gives RCR a young, hungry driver to build around. Childress eventually speaks publicly, shares his grief with the NASCAR community, and the organization becomes a living tribute to everything Busch represented. Racing becomes the healing mechanism it's supposed to be. The weight of the loss is heavier than anyone anticipated. The number 33 car underperforms while the team is still emotionally compromised. The search for a permanent replacement becomes contentious or rushed. And Childress, who by all accounts keeps absorbing everyone else's pain without processing his own, eventually hits a wall that impacts the team's direction heading into next season. The difference between these two outcomes comes down to one thing: whether this organization lets itself grieve properly together before it tries to rebuild. RCR has faced the unthinkable twice now, and both times the answer they came back to was the same: keep going. Honor the person you lost by not letting what they built fall apart. But here's the question I'll leave you with. Is ride for the brand enough to carry a team through something this significant? Or does there come a point where pushing forward too quickly actually makes the grief harder to carry in the long run? That's a real conversation worth having. Drop your take in the comments. I want to know what you think RCR needs most right now. And if you want coverage that goes beyond the starting grid and into the stories that actually shape this sport, make sure you're subscribed. This is SportsWire USA. We don't just cover the race, we cover what the race means.